When a woman stops reaching out, your first instinct is to assume you've been deleted from her life. You see a blank screen and empty notifications, and you translate that into a lack of interest. But here's the truth that most men never grasp. For a woman, silence is rarely about forgetting you. It is often a calculated response to how much she actually feels. She hasn't texted and she hasn't called, but somewhere in the quiet of her day, your name just crossed her mind, and it hit her with a force she'll never let you see. While you're looking at your phone wondering if you still matter, she is likely looking at hers trying to regain the composure you disrupted. In the world of female psychology, silence isn't just a void, it's a strategy. It serves as a fortress for self-protection. When a connection feels too real, it creates an emotional overload that can be terrifying to navigate. She goes quiet because she is trying to regulate the intensity of her own reaction to you. It's not that you've disappeared from her inner world. It's that you are still far too present there. She isn't ignoring you because you're insignificant. She's ignoring you because she hasn't figured out where to put you. You've become a heavy piece of emotional data that doesn't fit into a simple category. And until she knows if you're a threat to her peace or the key to her happiness, she chooses the safety of the quiet. This silence is actually a form of internal negotiation. By not reaching out, she is attempting to prove to herself that she is still in control of her feelings. Every day she manages to stay silent is a day she thinks she's winning the battle against her own attachment. But the irony is that the more she fights the urge to contact you, the more space you occupy in her mind. You haven't been erased. You've been preserved in a state of high tension. She is holding her breath, waiting for the weight of your memory to settle into something she can finally understand. Until then, her silence is the loudest proof that you haven't left her system yet. To understand why you are still in her head, you have to understand that men and women process emotional attachment in completely opposite ways. When a connection ends or fades, most men tend to externalize. They look for distractions, they talk it out with friends, or they try to replace the feeling with someone new. But a woman's process is internal. She doesn't just move on, she replays. She doesn't just remember, she relives. While you might have moved on to the next task of your day, she is likely dissecting a 5-minute conversation you had 3 weeks ago. She attaches a lifetime of meaning to the small things you probably didn't even notice. The specific way you looked at her, a sudden pause in your voice, or a casual comment that felt like a throwaway line to you but landed in her nervous system like a permanent scar. When she thinks of you, it isn't a logical pros and cons list. She isn't sitting there running a calculation on whether you were objectively good for her. Her memory is purely sensory. It's emotional. It's a physical reaction. She remembers the exact version of herself that showed up when she was around you. Maybe with you, she felt more feminine, more grounded, or more intellectually challenged than she does with anyone else. That feeling is addictive, and it's what keeps your image flickering in her mind long after the talking has stopped. She isn't missing a person as much as she is missing the state of being she experienced in your presence. That kind of internal alignment is rare, and the brain doesn't just let go of rare things easily. The most intense part of this memory isn't just the good times, it's the fact that she felt seen. True intimacy is a double-edged sword. It's beautiful, but it's also terrifying. When a woman realizes that you bypassed her surface-level filters and saw the parts of her she usually keeps hidden, it creates a massive amount of internal friction. Fear is born in that moment of being known. This is why she stays quiet. She is stuck in a psychological, uncomfortable middle because she can't decide if you are a danger she needs to forget or a connection she needs to pursue. That state of being undecided creates an incredible amount of emotional tension. And in the world of human attraction, tension is the one thing that is absolutely unforgettable. One of the biggest lies men believe is that they have to be perfect to stay on a woman's mind. The truth is, perfection is boring. It's predictable, and the brain easily filters it out. Women don't obsess over the man who did everything right. They obsess over the man who disrupted their emotional frequency. If she was used to men who played games and you gave her total honesty, you disrupted her pattern. If she was used to emotional chaos and you provided a grounded, masculine calm, you left an imprint that she can't shake. You essentially rewired her expectations. When you change the emotional weather someone is used to living in, you become a permanent landmark in their mind. You didn't just pass through her life. You changed the way she perceives everyone else who comes after you. The magic happens in the space you leave behind. Every single time she picks up her phone to text you and then stops herself, your value in her mind actually increases. We call this gaining weight. Because she is actively choosing to resist the urge, she has to justify to herself why the urge is so strong in the first place. By staying away, you aren't becoming lesser. You are becoming a mystery that needs to be solved. This is where most men fail. They feel the silence, they get anxious, and they rush in to fill the gap. They demand answers, they ask for closure, and they try to force a conversation. They mistake her silence for a door closing, when it's actually an internal battle she's fighting. By pressuring her, you break the spell. You turn from a compelling mystery into a predictable nuisance. You have to understand that emotional gravity doesn't respond to force, it responds to space. When you have the discipline not to chase, you force her mind to do all the heavy lifting for you. In your absence, she begins to ask herself the dangerous questions that lead to deep attraction. She wonders why you feel so much more significant than other men she's known. She starts to realize that her life feels a little quieter, a little emptier, and a little less aligned without your presence. She wonders why she can't just flip a switch and forget you like she did with the others. By doing nothing, you allow her own psychology to build a pedestal for you. Your absence becomes louder than anyone else's presence because you are the only one brave enough to let the silence speak for itself. When you make a deep impact on a woman, you aren't just someone she's attracted to. You become a mirror of her own identity. This is the mirror effect. Most men think attraction is just about looks or chemistry, but the most powerful bond happens when you reflect a version of her that she actually likes. Maybe when she was with you, she felt more grounded, she laughed without a filter, or she experienced a rare sense of peace she hasn't found anywhere else. That version of herself, the one that felt right, doesn't just disappear because the two of you stopped talking. It stays buried in her system. Her silence now isn't a sign that she's moved on. It's an intense internal negotiation. One part of her wants the safety and predictability of a life without you, but the other part is haunted by how alive she felt in your presence. She chooses to stay quiet because reaching out is a massive risk. For a woman, sending that one "hey" or "thinking of you" text isn't just a message. It's reopening an emotional door she might not be ready to handle. She knows that one conversation could pull her right back into a dynamic she hasn't fully processed, and that loss of control is terrifying. This is why men often misread the situation. You see her looking composed, posting on social media, or moving through her day, and you assume she's over it. But feminine psychology works differently. A woman often does her heaviest grieving and most intense analyzing in total, private silence. By the time she actually looks like she's moved on, she's already spent weeks or months fighting a war inside her own head. You have to realize that if she hasn't reached out, it doesn't mean the urge isn't there. It often means she is actively, forcefully fighting it. She is compartmentalizing you because the emotional cost of thinking about you is too high. She tells herself she's fine, then walks past a mental door every day pretending she doesn't hear the noise of your memory behind it. Her silence is her armor. She is protecting herself from the vulnerability of admitting that you changed her internal environment. If you hit her identity and made her feel seen, she isn't just missing a guy. She's missing the way she felt about herself when she was with him. And that kind of ghost doesn't leave the room just because you stop talking to it. The human brain is wired to seek resolution. It absolutely hates unresolved data. When a woman can't neatly file you away in a mental folder labeled good guy, bad boy, or temporary distraction, you become something much more powerful, unfinished business. Because she can't categorize you, her mind can't close the file on you. You become a psychological loop that keeps playing in the background of her life. This lack of closure is magnetic because it forces her to keep returning to the memory of you, searching for the missing piece of the puzzle. You become a reference point in her mind that unsettles her sense of control. Every other man she meets gets measured against the unsolved mystery that you left behind, and that comparison rarely favors the guys who are easy to figure out. The real paradox here is that your silence and self-containment actually did the heavy lifting for you. Most men feel the need to over-explain themselves, defend their actions, or beg for a woman to see their value. But by being emotionally self-contained, you left a massive amount of room for her imagination to wander. Because you didn't demand validation or force her to understand you, she had to fill in those blanks herself. In the absence of your words, her mind began to create its own narrative about who you are and what you represented. She starts to wonder if by losing access to you, she actually lost access to the most authentic, grounded version of herself. This isn't just about missing a person. It's about the haunting feeling that a rare alignment was broken before it was finished. Ultimately, you didn't have to try to be unforgettable. The fact that you were consistent and steady made you that way. In a world where most people are reactive, inconsistent, or desperate for attention, a man who stands firmly in his own skin is a statistical anomaly. You represented a baseline of emotional stability that she likely hasn't found elsewhere. This is why her mind keeps circling back. She isn't just remembering a relationship, she's recalibrating her entire internal compass based on the impact you had. You became a turning point in her life, not just a destination. And because the story feels unfinished, the gravity of your presence only grows stronger the longer you stay away. The ultimate reality most men miss is that once an impact is made, your power no longer lies in what you do. It lies entirely in what you don't do. At this stage, any action you take to remind her of your existence actually weakens your position. Your restraint is currently telling a much louder, more compelling story than any text message or phone call ever could. By staying silent and staying in your own lane, you are communicating a rare level of high-value self-respect. You are showing her that you are a man who refuses to chase anyone who doesn't choose him freely. In a world where most men collapse into desperation, begging for attention, or demanding answers, your ability to walk away with your dignity intact separates you from 99% of the men she has ever known. This isn't just a tactic, it's a demonstration of a grounded masculine core that she cannot help but respect. You have to understand a fundamental law of attraction. Women don't reopen doors for men who are standing on the porch waiting to be let back in. They reopen doors for men who have clearly outgrown the room. If you are just waiting, she can feel that stagnant energy, and it makes her feel safe to keep you on the shelf. But when you focus on your own evolution, when you deepen into the man you are becoming rather than clinging to who you were, you become a moving target. You become someone she has to reevaluate from a distance. She realizes that the version of you she knew is gone, replaced by someone even more capable and self-contained. That realization creates a fear of loss that no amount of chasing could ever achieve. You aren't lingering in the past. You are building a future that she no longer has automatic access to. If she ever reaches out, it won't be because you stayed available or sent the perfect thinking of you message. It will be because you had the strength to stand your ground while growing. Your silence isn't the end of the story. It is the necessary pause where your impact finally settles into her nervous system. It's the period of time required for her to realize that the steadiness you offered wasn't a fluke. It was who you are. By choosing yourself over the need for her validation, you have raised your own standard and shifted her internal compass forever. Whether she returns or not, you've already won because you've mastered the rarest skill of all, being fully present without being attached.